ProCognita, Get Agile podcast. Descaling organizations. Interview with Jurgen De Smet.
Hi, I'm Tomasz Wykowski from ProCognita, and today with me is Jurgen De Smet, certified LESS trainer with over 20 years of experience in implementing Scrum, with 10 years of experience of having seeing large Scrum into the implementing large Scrum into the one organization, so seeing the changes into one organization. Did I miss anything?
No, I think you got it right. So the decades plus more than a decade Agile adoption in LS huge is interesting part.
So you're also the co-founder of Co-Learning company, and what you do is basically you help leaders, you help executives in descaling their organization.
Yeah.
So what you mean by descaling? So what is descaling of the organization?
Most probably due to past problems that organizations experience, they go into quick fixes. So quick fixes meaning adding process and roles on top of things to prevent other things to pop up. For example, if there's a production issue coming up and they don't want this anymore because it disrupted their environment too much, then it's a quick fix might be, let's initiate some kind of extra step in between delivering while creating software and putting it in production so that we are reassured this is not going to happen. And most probably we do this with other people, so we initiate another department on top of that. So, and in the past, most probably lots of those quick fixes have been applied due to time pressure or imaginary pressure maybe. So they built quite a complex structure. And so if we say Agile requires simple structures with fast decision making. So if we truly want to have reap the benefits of doing an Agile adoption, it means we need to descale the organization, reduce complexity, horizontal complexity, vertical complexity, spatial complexity, technical complexity to make it happen.
So all those decisions is basically slowing down the organization.
It's tremendously slowing down organization, but also receiving true feedback on whatever the organization wants to put into the market. Feedback, is it valuable, not valuable? Does it help our top line grow, yes or no? We don't know. We take huge risks in having long feedback cycles in that sense. So in building stuff which might not even be successful.
Yeah, and the bigger organization is, the bigger this life cycle is. So, I mean, this feedback cycle is. So, why it's so hard for those bigger organizations to descale then?
I think there's many different aspects to this question. So, why is it hard to descale? First, I would mention the Greg Larman's laws of organizational behavior, which is not really a law. It's not scientifically proven. It's by observation, where it's being said like, okay, organizations implicitly don't really want to change the first level manager positions, power structures, and specialist positions. So implicitly we want to keep it like it is, meaning that many organizations start to apply Agile practices, but they use the terminology, but they don't change the real behavior in that sense, so that they don't really need to address the real root cause of certain issues not being flexible and Agile in that sense.
Applying the new labels on the old stuff.
Yeah, for example, and avoiding to do the real structural changes needed in that sense. So, and not really benefiting from the Agile culture as it is intended to, fast feedback cycles and that. I think this is one part. And another part, I think, is that too many organizations, and you mentioned like with co-learning, we do executives, we also do the technical, really inside the teams, really going into the dirt of the misery that most probably has been built over the years because of pressure, cleaning this up as well, because what do I see as well, they change organizational structures or they put new roles, expect because it's on paper that it's immediately applicable, behavior is not changed, and they forget about one of the major aspects in making Agile or agility at an organizational level work. They need to make sure that it's they get constrained basically by their technical agility. So the misery of the monoliths, very ugly architecture and coding that they had in the past. So and we need to work on both domains. So I think this is underestimated.
Delay by the technical problems and delay by the current structure is what you're saying?
Yeah. You know, many of the technical things come back like we have dependencies. So for me, dependency, I receive it as an opportunity for improvement. I don't see it as an issue. It's just an opportunity for improvement, getting rid of it. But most of the dependencies come from bad architectural decisions, which is causing this. And another way is the organizational structure. So we need to work on both at the same time. And I guess this is where lots of organizations misinterpret lots of the things. And they work on one but not the other, and then you get constrained by those things.
Yeah, I guess we can return to those technical excellence in a second, but first I'm going to ask you, how do you start them? So when you approach the large organization, if the large organization approach you, how do you start the transformation?
If they approach me, it starts with creating, or really doing a thorough assessment of the context at hand. So I don't believe in a copy-paste approach. So there's no one way you can just copy-paste somewhere else. So you need to understand what is the business domain you're working in, what are the market constraints that are giving this, how is the technical architectural constraints, how is the current collaboration and organizational structure set up, what are the processes there. So you need to assess the organization from lots of different perspectives, technical, organizational, business related, to get this kind of understanding. Does it fit or does it not fit? What fits, where does it not fit? Where do we need to start? And I think this is a crucial part. Where do we actually start? I see in the past we have done this kind of trainings, and when I was an employee at the same company there for decades, the first thing that we tried is we do a pilot or a proof of concept or whatever you want to call it, and we look for something which is not that highly prioritized. So if we fail, it's not that bad. And because we choose something which is not highly prioritized, then we don't get the attention it deserves to make it successful. So these days I'm looking for high impact related domains where we can do a proof of concept, because if we then ask business people, end users to participate in refinement reviews, then they are entitled and they are willing to come. If it's not a high priority item you work on, then business users and others will just refuse coming over, and they have the right to say no, because there's more important stuff. And then you don't reap the benefits, and then things go just backwards, back to the old structure.
And then you have a management support, and then it's easier to remove all those constraints you mentioned, I guess.
Yeah. I think this is crucial. You need to have top-down support that allows for bottom-up volunteering. I think this is also a crucial aspect. We tend to work with volunteers. It might take a time, it might take a month, 2 months, maybe even 3 months to create and make sure there's enough awareness and urge within the teams to actually go into this kind of huge change, so that they volunteer to be part of it, that they're not forced in something that they don't want to be. I think, because if you do this, you avoid having to apply lots of the change management techniques and then having people dragging down, not really participating. If they choose to be part of it, then people are wanting to make it a success already a pet, and then they are going to be more coachable as well into new practices and techniques, which makes it more applicable to become successful at the end.
And it takes time. So one of the very popular approaches basically do the whole transformation of the whole organization at the same time. So you get a higher consultant, they come in, they change the whole organization you have, and you end up with a new structure, and you end up with like a huge bill from those consultants. So why is not this approach? So why is like what you're saying, like we want to build awareness, we want to build we want to find the volunteers instead of just telling people that they would work in a different structure?
The main reason to work with volunteers and make sure we have this top-down support is that we have a big enough of the puzzle to show impact and generate impact at a short enough time frame, so that we generate some kind of bumps or dumps somewhere else in business relevant metrics. If you only do this with a one-team thing in a large setting, then you cannot generate bumps or dumps. We need to be able to generate bumps or dumps. If it's volunteers, they want to make it successful, so the impact of your change will speed up in that sense. So this is part of it. If you can generate bumps or dumps, you acquire more mandate, most probably, more insights from the people executives, deciding if to broaden up product definition, for example, from a less perspective, or broaden up the definition of done towards other departments, which initially might not be part of this kickstarting setup.
Yeah, so why not the whole company at the same time?
Skills, knowledge, and understanding of the system at hand. Every company has different system aspects at hand, different market constraints, different variables that are putting pressure or putting different dynamics in their organization, you need to be able to explore this. And also within the same department, within the same company, different departments or different sites, even in the same country, will have different system dynamics playing. So just doing it all over the place, most probably you don't have enough of experience and skills in-house to actually support this kind of big, huge change at once. Another thing is, by doing an Agile adoption or a Scrum, large-scale Scrum, for example, adoption very well, you get a very high level of transparency. You know, lowering the water, you see more of the things which you never expected to see before. So if you do this with a whole company and suddenly this kind of huge rocks hits you in the face, then, and it's the whole company, then people don't take the time to figure out better ways. So the first sentence of the Agile Manifesto, uncovering better ways, they don't take the time to uncover better ways. They immediately revert back to the old structures. And that's a pitfall in Agile adoption. So if you take a piece of the puzzle, like for example, base company, we work with Tech Mahindra, a huge consulting company, for the CapEx related project contract that they had, we just added an addenda to exclude a certain area, so that we could do this area. You can exclude a certain area from a multi-million contract and do this as an addenda, and you create a kind of a small black spot because it's a small thing in the huge pillar. And they give you time to figure out better ways in their context on how to collaborate. And then later on they saw, actually this is a lot better than with the contract. And then they are open to renegotiate the complete contract and move forward from there. If you immediately want to change the complete contract for everything, this is going to be most probably hell on earth, too risky and too much money involved. So, but creating a small spot where you can uncover better ways in their context is where you acquire the learning. It also gives you the opportunity to grow more of the Scrum Master or Agile coaching skills within the organization. People tend to rely too much on consultancy companies. Now I'm bitching on my own company, by the way, or business. Anyhow, so
the goal is to kick off yourself from the company anyway.
Yeah,
right?
my goal is indeed to get out of the company as fast as I can so that they can rely on their own skills. If they want to grow as well, this kind of way of working within their organization, they need to grow skills rapidly. They are not there in the market. You don't have experience, very good Scrum Masters just being there.
And the engineering practices.
And engineering practices
one
and all.
of the biggest problem we have right now.
So you need to build skills internally, and you need to make sure that people acquire practices on how to rebuild or educate even others in that skill. So not only build the skills, but also being able to mentor and coach others in that skill. So that if you go to the next step, that they actually can acquire there and that you grow it within your organization. If you always need to rely on externals, then this is for me a recipe for failure. But as soon as the externals go away, then it will collapse and go back.
So what I'm hearing, like for the change, you're looking for volunteers, you're looking for the place when you can get the impact. You're looking for like a deep impact in one place rather than trying to change the whole organization because of the, too much transparency can kill the organization. Yeah. Is there anything I'm missing? So like, is there anything else that need to happen to make this transformation successful?
Something we already mentioned before is, so the technical excellence is going to be crucial, otherwise this becomes a constraint. So for example, if you still work with long-lived branches, for example, we create a branch and this is there for, I don't know, 3 months before we integrate it somewhere else. This is 3 months that other people cannot touch the same code basically, or you risk having going into integration hell again. This kind of behavior is not really helpful in an Agile environment where you want to acquire fast feedback and also evaluate if whatever you're building is truthfully impactful to the market, yes or no. So this is something we need to address, and this, even if we do a small part, it means as well the surrounding teams will need to be involved in some of the refactoring and setting up build pipelines and deploy pipelines. So they will be involved in this kind of thing to grow the technical excellence to a certain level that it doesn't become a constraint for the business agility anymore. I don't say it needs to be perfect, but to a certain level where it's not a constraint anymore.
So talking about the business, technical excellence. So something you said before is like the moment when we get a wrong architecture decision, we end up with the complex system, we end up with an overcomplicated system, so a lot of dependencies into the system. Now, one of the things we often hear is like we don't let every team to change the code because they don't understand the architecture, and we need to have one architecture. So you can do the Scrum down there, but there's still need to be architecture up here. So what you're saying, like it's opposite. So you're saying like one architecture at the top of the whole system is not the best approach. So like hearing two different things. So why is that?
The thing is, you need to have, well, one architecture on top of this thing is not necessarily a good approach. I work generally in multi-team setup, so it's not one team. I have a big bunch of people, and architecture is a core skill within the teams. I don't say it needs to be one person or two person, it's a skill within the teams. And we need to understand architecture. We also, if it's one area, they need to understand how does it fit the full product. For that you can do this kind of architectural workshops. So where you, for example, event storming, I like to do, by the way, because it gives you a sense of what should the domain model really be. Not what it is in the organization most probably, but what should it be from a more sound architectural perspective. We do this in our workshops. Most probably we do this in workshops with tens, maybe even 100, 150 people. So this 150 people that suddenly understand this is the kind of architecture we need to start moving to. And then by doing small steps, they can reevaluate.
Yeah, so this is what I mean. We move the architectural responsibility to the team, but how do you convince this top level architecture that used to do all that architectural decision so far in the company, and they say, I cannot let the team decide. So how do you work on that?
If this is happening, it means we don't have enough of the top-down support, or the mandates are not big enough, even though we pushed for it. But it happens, and I'm okay with that. So the first steps that is going to happen there is inviting those kind of architects into the multi-team refinement sessions. So basically where we discover what is the functional demand or behavioral demand, and then we build also architectural models parallel next to each other. So then they can give input, they can have a voice just as team members. By collaborating, we will grow more of the trust in this. By doing this kind of collaboration and refinement, also being part in review sessions, they will start to understand actually the teams are not that unskillful in this thing. Maybe it's an interesting thing. And they will slowly, not fast, but slowly step back maybe. Some of them, I have experience, will actually ask to become part of the teams. Are so intrigued with the further implementation of their architecture they discussed that they actually really ask to become part of the teams. And then you can start building bridges. I think this is crucial, building the bridges, showing them what kind of impact they can have if they would be part of the team. So there's part of the impact in refinement sessions and a part of the impact in review. If they want more impact, they can we invite them to join the teams.
And then you have all those building architectural skills into the team, which you just said about building the skill set on the team level. So, okay, so we started the transformation, we get into the transformation, we see the transformation happening. Now, when do you know that it's not going to fall back? The moment you leave, it's not going to return to what it used to be like half a year ago or 5 minutes ago? How do you know that you're okay to leave?
I think you never know for sure, but you know, if you want certainty, it doesn't exist. We have to deal with uncertainty and variation in life. What do we do to at least prevent? I think this is a more appropriate. How can we prevent it collapsing back to old structures? It's a kind of coaching approach we use. We use this kind of tandem coaching approach. Initially we actually do together with somebody from internally in the organization to mentor. To mentor somebody to show them as well, this is how things are being done. It's not just coaching, it's really mentoring. So then we switch seats. The internal person becomes the driving seat, we're at the back. So if they drive in the wrong direction or they make some mistakes where we nearly fall down, we can intervene. So if you feel, this is okay, we step down. And then we coach from the sideline. They can coach somebody else in the same domain again. So we coach from the sideline. We don't want to do this too often. And that's where we have this kind of cool friend service, where we have like a full 1 year remote support. We do this through Slack with more than 10 really experienced coaches where they can have instant feedback. The coaches are being paid, so it's not like the free public thing that you have, because let's be honest, most of the really experienced coaches like yourself, we are not going to serve on the public things and repeat ourselves a gazillion times. So those coaches are being paid to really monitor and give fast feedback. Next to that, they have 2-hour video calls every month. So this is like, if we go away, we're not really away. At the back, we're still there as co-friends with formal and informal leaders driving that change forward. So at least the next year, we still follow up on those things and we understand what is happening.
So you don't stop the support, you just weaken the support, so they take over and take over. Cool.
And if we feel that the organization is really moving forward by themselves, continuously improving, and we see the mandates growing and the product definitions growing out of themselves, not because we provide more transparency, because they provide transparency by themselves, that's the moment when I think like, okay, yes, this is it. Now they can really, this is sustainable change. This is where it's not going to end, because Agile never ends. The first sentence, uncovering better ways, so there's no end to it.
Yeah. So, if people are struggling with trying to do the transformation in their organizations, like some recommendation can give them, like one great advice from Jurgen, anything they should look at, anything they should start with?
Given the assumptions that are playing in my head related to struggles in Agile adoptions in the wide region of Europe, let's put it like this, in a large scale, then I think it would be start reading books related to real code and coding structures and craftsmanship practices and mindsets. So there are a couple of good things. So here in ProCognita, for example, you had Gojko coming over with specification by example, impact mapping. Those are great techniques to actually go in there. So really also go from business towards the technical. So I would even continue with the technical things. So maybe reading the book, Your Code is a Crime Scene. So even for non-technical people, this would be a very useful book to make their Agile adoption most probably more successful, because in my opinion, what is most lacking in today's Agile adoptions is the respect towards people being at the Gemba, the real code. So understanding about coding and architecture, I think, is getting more understanding on this would be the best thing.
Starting from solving those problems. Yeah. And I was also hoping you will mention the system thinking. So anytime we do the change, so people need to understand the whole system, because most of the people behave reasonable because there is some constraint they have into their part of the system. So most people, despite we think that they're crazy, in most cases they are not. So I was hoping also that, you know, you mentioned this one, but you went into the code, which I love as well. So I'm good with your answer as well.
Yeah, you know, I used the systems thinking to come to a conclusion that the technical part might be the thing that is lacking too much, because people don't understand it. Systems thinking would provide them the understanding how it's interconnected with their business agility. So, yeah. And how it's hampering some of the benefits that they want to achieve and they don't get. And people still think too much it's about the people and the structures and the process. It's not, it's lots about code itself.
Yeah, and we end up with those assumptions that, you know, Scrum more or less is just a project management methodology. So just implement this one and tell the developers to self-organize, and they will not solve all the problems without teaching them all the skills. So the last question, as ProCognita, we're having a 10 years anniversary this year. So it's decade for us. Woohoo, yeah. So my question is, like, there are some patterns that happen over the 10 years. So do you see any changes into how the organization approach Agile, how the organization change, or what is happening over the 10 years compared to what it used to be and what is now?
I think one of the big changes that has happened between today and 10 years ago, 10 years ago I still think it was more of a bottom-up approach. And today, like, everybody wants to be Agile, needs to be Agile, and they don't really acknowledge the learning that they need to have as an organization anymore today. So that's where this Agile theater comes from. So they apply Scrum terminology, but they definitely don't apply Scrum from within the principle or as it's intended to. I tend to call even some of the Scrum implementations pure team torture in that sense. So. I think this is the biggest change. I also think this is a challenge that is going to be very difficult to survive within Scrum community. So how can we preserve the true meaning of Scrum while there's so much theater being played around by less experienced people or people not understanding Scrum from within the principles? And I think one of the reasons for that is the big bang stuff you already mentioned before. We do the full organization and we have people like, just like we see certified Scrum Master today course, good enough. We call them Scrum Master, and we basically see the Scrum Master as the old team lead or team secretary in the worst case, and that's it.
And that's hopefully not after the CSM, but I hear that.
I think this is one of the changes that we have. I hope less large-scale Scrum will be more like extreme programming, It didn't really catch up as much as many other frameworks, but it's still there and very considered successful. And I hope with large-scale Scrum you get into similar things. It maybe not being the scaling method, which is more of a descaling practice from within the principles. Not as popular, but I hope it's still there because it delivers the true impact that is intended to, just like the extreme programming was doing on a single team.
Difficult but impactful.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much for taking time for having this conversation. We're gonna have to post some of the links you mentioned to our watchers, so you can see. You can see some of those information into the links under the video. Thank you very much once again.
Thanks for inviting me. And if you have questions, reach out to me through LinkedIn or anything else. I will at least try to respond in time.
Thanks.
Thanks.
To learn more, visit procognita.com/getagile.